What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and Senator Bernie Sanders just came out with a bill for $17 an hour minimum wage. And a lot of Democrats push for this. They previously pushed for $15 an hour minimum wage, now $17 an hour minimum wage. When the minimum wage is still, federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. And in a lot of states, this is still the case. And the question kind of begs, would raising the minimum wage, in fact, some states have their minimum wage at $15 an hour or have passed legislation to raise it to $15 an hour here that has already passed in a few years. Like it's already passed, but it's kind of a stepped up here to go to that here in a few years in a lot of states. Is a $15 an hour or $17 an hour minimum wage a good idea? Let me know your thoughts on this. And what effect on inflation does that have on your wallets, on the economy, and how much will that affect inflation when every single business you go to, think McDonald's, think Wendy's, think Home Depot, think CVS, every single business you go to has to pay a $15 or $17 an hour minimum wage. How much is that going to cost you in the long run for every single worker, and every single thing you buy has that cost built in? So kind of just think about that. And make sure to stay to the end of this video. You won't believe what happened at King Charles's coronation ceremony. I'll let you know here in this video. It's shocking. In fact, here's an interesting point of view from Andrew Yang, a former presidential candidate who was for universal basic income, with an interesting point of view. Take a listen to this.
Now, right now, the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, although many states and cities require much higher pay. Sanders' proposal would equal an annual salary of about $35,000 per year. But what could that mean for inflation? Joining us now is Forward Party co-chair and 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang, obviously well known for his support and endorsement of a UBI, Universal Basic Income. Is a $17 federally mandated minimum wage, Andrew? Is that the answer?
Well, Brian, I ran a small business, and the reality is that a lot of small businesses, if they were faced with higher wages, would examine their staffing. There is a fundamental American principle that if you work full time, you shouldn't be poor or destitute. And 725, in my mind, is way too low, especially with inflation. The problem really is who's going to bear the cost of getting more buying power into Americans' hands. It's one reason why I was for a basic income during the presidential, because I think that there are some more creative, enlightened ways to get buying power into people's hands rather than pushing it all onto the shoulders of small business owners who would be really on the front lines of this.
What would it do to inflation?
Well, the reality is you're talking about Americans who are just scraping by. You put a bit more money into their hands and they can buy a bit more. We saw with the enhanced child tax credit, which 100 plus economists said did not have a meaningful impact on inflation. Though in some cases, small business owners, if they had higher costs, they might look at passing them along to their consumers.
Yeah, you know, here's the thing about the minimum wage is that you look at a McDonald's or a fast food restaurant or a business that traditionally would pay that kind of minimum wage. There's two types of workers. I mean, I worked at a Wendy's when I was 14, right? And it made me realize that's a hard job, by the way. It's a very hard job. You got to deal with angry customers who want their food 30 seconds ago. But I was 14 years old, right? So I was just happy with whatever I had. Now we have more people sort of making careers. I don't mind paying people more, but is it right for the government to mandate it? Should a 14-year-old make $17 an hour working at Wendy's? How about that?
Well, I thought you were going a different direction. One of the reasons why I was for basic income on the presidential was that we're automating a lot of this work. And fast food chains are among the most eager to figure out if they can do more with fewer workers. They're replacing cashiers with kiosks. And
they already are. They are. And that's the point.
Yeah, I mean,
the $17, we talk about AI, right? You want to talk about artificial intelligence. The fear here is that mandating that kind of pay is probably going to push forward that No person at the Taco Bell. Zero. It's like one robot and like a guy to feed the dog that guards the robot.
Yeah, that's where the incentives very clearly steer, particularly if you're a large operation, a publicly traded company like a Wendy's, who'd look at it and say, wait a minute, if I can reduce a couple of workers per location, that's going to add up very quickly. So this AI revolution is going to have profound effects. And the question is, how can we help companies and individuals get through this in a way that makes sense?
What's the answer?
Well, I said a basic income. One thing that I'd like to see too is anything that gets the labor force participation rate higher. You can imagine a program where we match salaries for people who are coming into the workforce and make it so that the small business owner doesn't necessarily bear the brunt of that. But as a society, I think having people in jobs is a big win. And we should be encouraging that in an era where it's going to make more and more sense for companies to replace a lot of these workers.
Well, and that's the one reason unemployment rate is so low is because it only measures people looking for a job, and the people that are looking for a job is low. But the labor force, particularly among men, 25 to 40-year-old men, has collapsed. It was like 85% 30 years ago. It's like 65% now. But wouldn't a UBI discourage people to enter the labor force?
Well, it's hard to have a market economy when people don't have buying power. I've seen the same numbers you just described, which is really, to me, driving a lot of the unrest and strife around the country. If you have millions of American men who are out of the workforce and the outside looking in, how do we get them back in? And making it easier for people to employ them is a win. I said, look, getting money into their hands is going to make them more functional and able to get out and actually participate. Because if you give someone a foundation or a floor, a lot of folks will say, okay, now that I've got this, how am I going to get out of the house and do some more?
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on that? Let me know in the comments. Also, on a $15 or $17 an hour minimum wage, Congress and, well, the government has not raised the federal minimum wage in what seems like forever. Some states obviously have. If you watched that, you've seen in the video that some states have. And the other thing is just kind of the market has, I don't think very many people are working for $7.25 an hour. Places like Walmart and Amazon, the two largest employers in the country, are relatively hiring for around $15 an hour. It varies per location, but that is around their average wage or their starting wage, depending on the area and the type of job that you're at is pretty much around what they say. Typical results may vary, right? But the thing is that if we force upon employers a $15 to $17 an hour minimum wage for places like McDonald's or Wendy's or something like that, imagine what would happen to the price of the items there. So let's just say that $17 an hour minimum wage happened at McDonald's, and what do you think would happen to the prices there across the board? I think we all can realize that the prices would go up almost immediately because they would have to pay more for labor. Also, I'm starting to see at McDonald's here around me, they do have those automated ordering screens. It's like a large iPad TV screen, right? Where you can order yourself. So you can go with that, and you can also go and order with a person. But I would probably guess that that would become more and more where you could go order at the screen and there'd only be one person to order from. So it does seem like, there's becoming less jobs and more automation. Starting to see that at Walmart as well, where there's more self-checkout places and less places to go where there's a person. Yeah, so let me know your thoughts on that. Also, you can see efforts to lower prescription drug prices get off to a rocky start here. Congress is turning its attention to reining in health costs as lawmakers in both chambers looking to harness enthusiasm for bringing down prescription drug costs and turning it into bipartisan legislation. As Democrats scored a key victory over the pharmaceutical industry, rare, you don't see that happen very often, with the Inflation Reduction Act, which gave Medicare the ability to negotiate some drug prices. They're now looking to build on that effort and expand the focus to other parts of the drug supply chain. And the goal is to pass some bipartisan reforms. Several committees have passed or soon will consider reform bills for the pharmacy benefit managers, saying, quote, the Help Committee is going to be extremely aggressive on doing everything we can to lower the cost of prescription drugs, and we're going to deal with that in a number of ways, including dealing with PBMs, said Senator Bernie Sanders, who is chairman of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committees. But one of the key steps in that process got off to a rocky start Tuesday. What was meant to be a bipartisan Senate hearing to consider legislation on drug costs was derailed amid accusations by Republicans that Democrats reneged on promises that they made while working out the details on various bills. Senator Bill Cassidy, a Republican, said he felt Bernie Sanders blindsided him in the legislative process, saying, quote, I am concerned that today the chair seems inclined to abandon the carefully balanced bipartisan legislation we negotiated for the last several weeks. His top concern was that despite agreeing to certain policies would be excluded from the legislative package, Sanders was going to allow them anyways in the form of amendments. Cassidy said even though he may have agreed with the content of some of those amendments in the past, Republicans did not have a chance to fully vet them because key information wasn't shared with the GOP staff. Also, King Charles will be crowned here at Westminster Abbey here in the morning on a, quote, scaled back coronation ceremony that will cost only up to $125 million. Yeah, it comes as the UK economy remains in the doldrums and is struggling. So it will, yeah, only costs up to $125 million. Also, in case you can't believe this, there was, you can just look at the screen here. I don't think I could show this on YouTube or even mention it, but there was something strange mowed into the lawn at King Charles's coronation bash site, and it happened like a day or two ago, and it's true. It's true. You can look it up. So somebody did it in the middle of the night and pranked them, and apparently it'll be interesting to see if they have time to fix it because it's mowed into the lawn. Can't make this stuff up, guys. Can't make this stuff up. Queen Elizabeth is probably rolling in her grave right now because, yeah, they're probably unbelievably pissed. You can let me know your thoughts there in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with everything happening here in our country on a daily basis. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe down below. Click the bell icon. I'm not making this up. I promise. Yeah. So thanks for hitting the like button for us. Share these videos here. Here's some videos you should watch next. The Fed just made a massive announcement that's going to affect millions of Americans in this video. And we're on the brink of nuclear war. That's an exact quote. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.